Be okay if there were people who had any questions, they could call in with a question.
We prefer not to. I just want to stick to the stick to the script, if that's okay.
All right, to the script. Okay.
Live from my apartment at Sunday service, this week a Watchtower representative was forced to go off script when a radio host dared to ask unapproved questions, then parallels between Scientologist Danny Masterson's rape trial and Jehovah's Witnesses' own cover-ups of sexual abuse, and later in the show we'll look at a truly creepy video produced for Jehovah's Witness children about how God loves clean people. My name is Jake. Thank you for joining us for the live stream. If you're watching this in the far-flung future, this was streamed live, and you missed it, but now you can enjoy it in whatever kind of moon colony you live on. I'm assuming you're watching this in the way, way flung future. And thank you for joining us. Just yesterday, a really interesting thing happened, or it might not have been yesterday, but I saw it yesterday. Friend of the show, Ron Pimo, posted a link to a interview that a representative for Jehovah's Witnesses gave on a AM radio station. And this is something we've covered on the channel before. If you look in the description, I've linked a previous video where Ron and I, Ron Pimo is his screen name, his real name is Mitch. I'm doxing him right now in real time. No, we go over this leaked internal PR playbook that Watchtower has. And one of them is sending media representatives to local radio stations and news outlets, newspapers, things that might give favorable coverage to Jehovah's Witnesses. And one thing that they seem to be focusing on is local news and especially AM radio stations, which is interesting. And I remember chasing my tail on this a little bit when I first discovered this, I think on a stream where we were going through some of Robert Hendricks's media appearances. He's kind of the lead media person for Jehovah's Witnesses. We'll see whether or not that should be the case when we take a look at an interview he did in a minute. But I think it makes sense that they go on these AM radio programs for reasons I'll explain in a bit, but to kind of give some context as to how things are generally supposed to go. If you've never seen one of these interviews, they're essentially paid advertisement or unpaid advertisement for the group. So here's a media appearance from Robert Hendricks, the media spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is generally the sort of coverage they're expecting to get.
You're right. We're very public. Our public meeting.
That's kind of your main organization. You know, being out in the community and talking with folks, that's kind of your mainstay. So tell us a little bit about what had to change in response to COVID-19.
You're right. We're very public. Our public meetings are open to the public.
Look at his eyes, by the way.
We invite everybody to our conventions. Our yearly annual celebration of the commemoration of the death of Christ. That's also, we invite everybody to that. And we go door to door. And
yeah, they just basically want to be lobbed up for prompts to kind of uncritically preach their message. And they're very uncomfortable to watch, right? Infuriating to watch if you're an ex-member and you know that they're, currently undergoing this wide-scale sexual abuse case in Pennsylvania, where all congregations in the state have essentially been subpoenaed and have to comply with this attorney general's investigation, sticking to the script. That's what they expect. And as you will see, we get a list of what these approved questions were, because the radio outlet posted an article on their website with the pre-approved questions. There's saying here's what we were allowed to ask, and here are the off-air answers we got to the questions we asked on this interview. So let's look at this. Now, I said that I was going to pull it up, and then I realized I didn't actually do that. So here is going to the description for this video and getting the link. And I'm going to pull up the YouTube video. Hang on a second. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Once again, for you moon people in the future, this is live. There we go. So here we go. I'm going to pull this up. We're very public. Yeah, that's a good thing to point out that Robert Hendricks said. Like, this person is like, yes, we're very public. Nothing weird or secret happens in this group. We are not hiding anything. It's all public. Why would we go out and knock on people's doors if we didn't have anything to hide that we won't tell you about? And yeah, Robert Hendricks, I really just wanted to show that because I was looking at clips of him this morning, and he just the whole time is kind of like doing this thing where he seems like he's about to fall asleep, or that he's currently being possessed by a malicious spirit. But anyway, sorry I didn't have that pulled up. This is on a show called Keeler Live, hosted by Bill Keeler. This is an AM radio program. The host, Bill, it would seem, goes on to say, that he is, in fact, a religious person himself. And I think it makes a lot of sense that they go on these AM radio programs, because AM radio is home to a lot of Christian and like socially conservative media. But like they have their like preacher broadcasts. There must be a word for that. It's not televangelists, radio evangelists, church programs, talk shows that are more conservative in nature. And when you think about what Watchtower's challenge is, they have to specifically try and reach people who are predisposed to agree with them. And I think reaching out to people who are already religious or have some level of respect for religion or religious people, and who are socially or culturally conservative, and who are maybe disillusioned with their own faith, like that's a demographic that they want to reach. And so it makes total sense they would do this. What they forget is that good radio programs are hosted by like charismatic people who want to keep their audience entertained. And clearly this guy didn't want to have this guy on, didn't want to have this Watchtower rep on just for a puff piece. He wanted to have them on because people don't know a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses, even though they're very public. So let's take a look at this. And we're just going to kind of go through this. If you want to make sure and like and comment on the main video feed, this video will almost certainly be like demonetized and thereby like not really filtered through the algorithm, since we're going to talk about Danny Masterson's rape trial. So give it a little boost, would you?
Unprecedented. Now we've had people in talking about Jehovah's Witness, but we have never had someone in representing. And I'm going way, 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 way back. We've never had anyone in representing Jehovah's Witness. And you are just that.
Representing Jehovah's Witness. He basically doesn't use the right terms the entire time, which I enjoy. It's like I still have that little bit of like a twinge of cringe when I hear people say like Jehovah Witness and stuff. But it's kind of interesting to hear a Watchtower rep confronted with that.
This morning.
Correct. Yeah, I serve as a local spokesman in the central New York region.
Okay. All right. So I'll ask some questions. There may be some questions that I asked that you can't answer. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm going to ask what I can here. First of all, let's talk about the religion.
So this guy's name, by the way, I didn't say the Watchtower rep's name. It's Patrick DeBono, which is, of course, French for the Bono. We don't know if there's any relation to the famous Bono. He doesn't get into that in the interview. But what I love about this camera angle is that you can see Patrick's phone pulled up to his script, literally his script. And right off the bat, I find it interesting that the host, Bill, just wants to know like some general information about Jehovah's Witnesses. And I don't know, like sound off in the chat. When I have people ask me now about Jehovah's Witnesses, it often isn't like, is it a weird cult? And do they sacrifice children to the gods? Like it isn't stuff like that. It's like, okay, so what's the deal with the preaching? Well, how do they decide where people go out in the ministry? Or like, how old do you have to be to go out in the ministry? Do they like do they not have windows in their buildings on purpose? Like it's more like basic questions. And you'll see this guy's really hesitant to answer even basic questions about the religion.
If you could explain what it is to be a Jehovah's Witness, could you?
Sure. Yeah. We base our beliefs strictly on the Bible, trying to follow the example of the first century Christians congregation and as it was established. And we prefer a literal understanding of the scriptures and base our beliefs on that.
Okay.
It's from the scriptures, so you can't criticize us, okay? You're saying there's something wrong with the Bible? Who would say that kind of thing?
But there are some changes happening.
With regard to our public outreach, yeah, absolutely.
Can I
Yep.
just bring up the if I could, and I just want to be, you're good with me just being honest, and you won't be offended by it, and I won't be offended. Well, what you can say whatever you want about me. I'm good.
Well, we're mostly here to talk about this new outreach.
I know
in
we
Utica.
are.
Yeah,
I know we are.
specifically.
But the knocking on the door,
Yep,
has been.
We're mostly here to talk about it. He's already getting the sense that this guy is not just going to go through the approved list of questions. He is going to ask whatever he wants, which is what a good interviewer would do. And I love it. And people, Jenny pointed out, like, it's just great. Like, it's not really an interview if you, the interviewer, are just asking pre-approved questions and then letting the person read off of a script, which you can clearly see on the screen. Yeah, he also mentions a literal view of the Bible. Did I mention that? I find that that's an interesting thing that he brings up. Like, we believe in a literal view of the Bible. That is important. And within conservative Christianity, they're very judgmental of people like these liberal Christians who want to say crazy stuff like maybe the flood didn't really happen. No, they have a literal view of the Bible, and that's of course incredibly important, because if they didn't have a literal view of the Bible, then there might not really have been an event in the Garden of Eve, which the Garden of Eve, no, the Garden of Eden, which set off a crazy like cosmic chain of events that now necessitates there being one true religion, which is Jehovah's Witnesses. Also, I have a wristband on because of my, or not a wristband, whatever you'd call this thing. I have carpal tunnel. It's been acting up, so I'm wearing this. But I didn't break any bones yet. It's live broadcast. Anything could happen.
An issue, and is an issue for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're about to talk about may be addressing that. Am I correct?
I think that's a fair statement. Yeah.
Because you see, I don't want to be. And listen, what I say, and I try to be respectful. It's like I have my religion, you have yours, and I'd like to leave it at that. Some people are willing to talk, and the pamphlets. I give the people who do knock on doors the most amazing credit in the world. I couldn't do that. Have you done it before?
Oh yeah. I spent a lot of time doing it.
I always get people asking me this too, because they're like, well, surely not everybody knocks on doors. Jake, have you ever knocked on doors? I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding? I've knocked on 1,000 million doors in my life. Yeah, by the way, we believe in a literal view of the Bible. Oh, so you believe that the earth was created in 6 literal days? Oh no, because if you really think about it, the word day in the book of Psalms, which of course is a book of poetry, there's a verse where it says a day to Jehovah as if it's 1,000 years. So maybe each of the days, the creative days, were figurative, and it could have been 1,000 years, could have been a million bajillion years. But yes, we also literally believe that humans are only 6,000 years old, and the first humans ever were Adam and Eve. And don't ask us about any like Neanderthals or Paleolithic humans that ever existed, because those we don't really talk about those.
It's a requirement. Is it a requirement?
Sharing in the ministry and outreach is, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
So would you also be okay if there were people who had any questions, they could call in with a question?
We prefer not to. I just want to stick to the stick to the script, if that's okay.
All right. To the script. Okay. What is changing about the knocking on the door?
Well, we're doing more community outreach now with carts in public locations.
Okay.
Right. So it's a community.
What they're doing here is plugging the cart ministry. Like, hey, we've got carts now, which like, okay. But I think Bill Keeler here is picking up on what I think their actual goal is to say, like, hey, we know people get to know the door knocks, but now we got these carts and you can come up and talk to us. And the implication is that they're kind of changing the way that they approach their door-to-door ministry, but it isn't. They still do that exactly the same. And then bonus, they're doing this new annoying thing too. And that is not the framing that old Phil Bono, The Edge, wants to talk about. Sorry, I had a weird brain fart moment where I was like, who am I and what am I doing? Oh, right, we're doing a live show.
Service. Most people are most familiar many of your listeners, maybe most of them, with our door-to-door ministry. But our outreach is changing slightly. People that have traveled may have gone to airports, major cities with transportation hubs, subway systems. Well, they'll see our mobile literature carts that offer free Bibles, Bible literature.
Mobile. This is high-tech stuff. This is next-gen technology. We have mobile literature carts. They're not kiosks. They're mobile literature carts. Another thing I think is worth pointing out about Bono here is that he is not charming or affable or like quick on his feet or anything. And that would seem to be what you would want in a media rep, because these people who go on these local programs are ostensibly from the territory. Like Keeler is going to ask about where Bono is from and like the territory that they preach in. And these are essentially just people who might be in your local congregation. If you're watching this and you're still a witness or you're PMO, these are just kind of random people in the field who meet the qualifications, who will then be given Watchtower's equivalent of media training. And I think that this guy just comes across as really aloof and boring and not fun. And Bill Keeler is just trying to get a fun interview for his show.
Help address some of the problems.
Do those
that
cards
people are
say
facing.
Jehovah's Witness, or does it say something else?
It says jw.org, which is our
JW.
website.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
excellent
Okay.
website that addresses a lot of questions people are facing. Locally here in Utica, it's interesting because we focus on English, Spanish, and
True.
Turin Sagal
True.
literature. You know, we have a significant
Okay, right.
population.
It's public outreach, but no, we will not defend any of our controversial policies publicly. That we will not do. That you can go to our website, or I will email you links to our website later. And that's the end of the story. We don't want to take calls from the public who might ask things that are not on my phone in front of me right now.
From Myanmar, where that's their native tongue. But of course, we have other languages available as well.
Okay. So the kiosk would be different, where you're not coming into that person's space. You're where that person might be. That person may be socializing, traveling, et cetera, and then they would walk up to you, or would you still reach out to them?
No, good question. And I think that's the difference is when we're in our door-to-door ministry, we're initiating the contact. Like it's our approach to them.
Yes,
However,
yes.
with our new cart activity, it's different because we don't approach people. I mean, we acknowledge people. We say hello. We wave. We have conversations, of course. We don't want to be rude to passersby.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Neither of these guys are on their phones. They feel like they have laptops, but they're just listening, asking extemporaneous questions. Witnesses learn about this extemporaneous delivery. Oh, he's not wearing a suit jacket. That's very questionable. It makes you wonder, but maybe he's trying to signal like, hey, we don't always wear suits. Look at me right now, just wearing a tie and a full button-up shirt with my sleeves all the way down. Yeah, but he's like visibly checking the script when these are things that he should be able to speak about very confidently, like off the top of his head. Like even if I just as a joke went in and pretended to be a media rep, I think I could give honest answers about what Jehovah's Witnesses believe and paint it in a positive way without being tied to my phone. But I think this is an important thing. Like these media reps, there's a weird thing where when you're in the ministry, you're kind of aware that there's the answer that is true and a little hard to explain. And then there's the answer that is on jw.org that won't necessarily fully answer their question, but that's the right answer. And so he wants to give the right answers, not the true answers during this interview. And there's also a thing where if you are overly, I don't know, like affable and charismatic and appealing, that could be seen as being haughty or being showy or taking away honor from the dignity of Jehovah's organization or outshining the governing body. Maybe it's that they're like these reps are in this weird zone where they have to be sort of normal seeming, but also have to have this weird religious solemnity about them. And they also have to like not be too fun or interesting. Like who is going to listen to this and be like, wow, that was awesome. I want to sign up right now. This guy rules.
However, we generally don't initiate a conversation.
Okay.
We wait for people to approach us. And the nice thing is locally here in Utica, we've had over 220 people trained in this new ministry outreach locally.
Okay.
So will the
Wow.
knocking on the doors go away completely?
It will not. And
Okay.
They've been trained in this new outreach, but like if you've ever done this, it's the training is just like you go and you stand at the cart and don't bother people. If they come up, maybe answer their questions, but try and keep it brief and direct them to the website. There, I just did the training. It's like a 10-minute meeting after the midweek meeting where they call you in the back and they're like, okay, we're just going to go over stuff for carts and then we'll sign you off that you're trained to do it. Like it's complete bullshit what he's saying. But it makes it sound more interesting and professional than it really is.
Let me explain why. You know, the door-to-door ministry has been a hallmark of Jehovah's Witnesses for the better part of the last century, right? It's what we're known for. I see it in tongue-in-cheek in TV shows all the time with a knock at the door.
Right. Yeah.
I want to apologize. I did a parody song years ago about the knocking on the door, but you're not the only group that does that. There are some other groups. Latter-day Saints do it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But as a hallmark of our activity, that won't change.
Okay.
In part, that's because of what the scriptures say. You know, at Acts chapter 20 and verse 20, it actually uses a phrase about a ministry outreach going house to house.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So first century Christians did it. Jesus talked about sharing good news. This month in particular, we're on a campaign globally among Jehovah's Witnesses, 8.7 million of us, sharing a special issue of the
Big numbers. This is another thing you do. You say big numbers because that substitutes as proof for it being true. Now, they're not going to cite the numbers of like other religions who they think are false, who are more populous than them, because they don't think in that case that their numbers correlate to the religions being true. But when they say it, you're supposed to be like, wow, 8.7 million people, and there's been 200 people trained locally on this incredible next generation cart technology.
the Watchtower that was printed in 2020.
I would not
Of
have
course,
said
COVID
this.
hit. We couldn't do an in-person outreach at that time, but it's up.
The very boring thing that they're doing for their campaign is placing an old Watchtower from 2020. I might have not said that. I think if I was being strategic, I would have said like, yeah, we've got this campaign this month. We're sharing this great magazine that we have. And I would not have mentioned that it's, 3 going on 4 years old. That is essentially a bunch of old information that you could have found any old time on their website, but they're just going to annoy you with it extra hard this month. This is not a great sales pitch, in my opinion.
About what is God's kingdom, kind of a positive message.
Okay. I believe Jehovah's
Positive
Witness-
message. That's another thing that he's going to focus on. And that I know I would say a lot in the ministry. Like, we're here to share a positive message from the Bible. Oh, there's so much bad news, but I have good news. If you join our church, God won't kill you. They're not going to say that exactly. But Jehovah's Witnesses do not have good news. And there was a good comment on this YouTube video from someone like, the reason why he doesn't want to answer questions off script is because they don't have good news to share. The news is that God is mad at how awful the world is. Satan's in control of everything. He's in control of the world. And the one system in this system of things that he's not in control of is Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization. If you want to survive Armageddon, your best chance is to join our group, because we alone have God's favor, and we were uniquely appointed by Jesus to preach this good news of the kingdom, the good news being that every other religion is going to be violently destroyed, in part by the current leadership of our church. The current leadership of our church are going to be essentially raptured and turned into angels, and they will be given heaven boot camp, and they will carry out a war of Armageddon and directly murder billions of people worldwide, except for you, a Jehovah's Witness. If you're like a good Jehovah's Witness, if you're exemplary, which you don't actually have any real way of knowing, so you better just really, really try your heart all the time. If you ask 3 follow-up questions, you can quickly determine that this group is a doomsday cult that believes that they alone will have salvation, but they don't want anybody to ask that. So he's just going to be like, hey, vaguely, we have good news. So come to our carts, or not, whatever. Just go to our website.
This is Knock on Doors, Church of Latter-day Saints,
Girl Scouts,
Republicans, Democrats, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Those are the people who knock on your door on a Saturday morning. So that won't end. That still will continue.
And immediately, Keila is like, you're not so special for going door to door. A bunch of people go door to door. But witnesses like this thing that they're like, we're famous for it. We're well known for it. And he says this Bono fellow in the interview, he says, we do this. We're not going to stop doing it because we're so well known for it, which to me is interesting as a member, because we were always taught, like, unlike churches of the world, we don't stick to some dogmatic tradition, and we don't stick to traditions just because it's tradition. We will change our beliefs if we find that it's wrong. But on this, they're like, it actually doesn't matter what the Bible says. We do it because it's tradition. Paraphrasing.
What success rate do you feel that you have when you when you do a cold call? Basically, it's a cold call.
Yeah. I think it's really about success in that we're sharing something positive, right?
Okay.
So if people respond or not, and that's their decision. We never force anything.
Sure.
And I hope no one's ever gotten that impression that we're sticking our foot in the door.
Some people have gotten that impression because there are witnesses who do that, especially old school people. You know, it is discouraged now. But the reason why he said that, and I don't think he said it in the best way, like, yeah, there used to be witnesses who would stick their feet in people's door and be like, you don't understand. You're going to die in 1975 if you don't accept this book about how millions now living will never die. And now most of those people are dead. So that now the door foot putter inners are mostly died out. And so that's why they don't do it as much. But it's not because, this guy's not good at his job. And I say this as a person who had trouble pulling up a YouTube video 10 minutes ago.
But I think it's an opportunity to share something positive, and I think that's always successful.
Okay. This morning we're speaking with Patrick DeBono.
It's always
Patrick,
successful.
You handle this area
In my
and a rather large area, or just this area?
Mostly down through the Mohawk Valley.
Okay.
Kind of Oneida.
Negative
to the
to
valley.
for outreach in public relations, really, for Jehovah's Witness.
For lack of a better phrase, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Doesn't he just sound, the Watchtower rep, doesn't he just sound like he's annoyed? Like, yeah, for lack of a better word, sure, PR, fine. He just sounds kind of pissed off, and like, now he's being forced to do this interview, and he should be thanking his lucky Jehovah Stars every day that anybody bothered to have this boring person who's going to read from his phone on a radio show.
You have a list of questions, and I have a few others that I'll swoop in there with. Is heart outreach ministry being done elsewhere, and what kind of success have you had with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I mentioned, 8.7 million Jehovah's Witnesses in 240 lands globally. The reality is this is a part of our ministry in all.
You know that famous way that we measure geography, lands. How many lands are there, Father? You often ask your father.
All parts of the world, even small communities. One of the things that's really nice is that we offer literature on our website, jw.org, in over 1,000 languages.
Really
and,
nice.
Wow.
And most places it's tailored to the local needs, like what languages are spoken locally in a community. And then, of course, we also see that a lot of people are apparently interested because currently there's more than 5 million people studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's just me on
worldwide.
accident now.
Can I ask you personally how you came to be a witness? Were you raised in the faith, or did somebody knock on your door and bring you into the?
Is it right to call you a witness? Is that what
Yeah.
you, okay.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't offend me.
Okay.
I kind of view it complimentary.
All right.
Actually.
Okay.
I love that, like, they ask these questions. I think that this is kind of interesting for Watchtower to see too. Like, this guy doesn't ask about CSA cases. Now, he does ask about shunning, as we'll see, but like, this could have gone much worse. And I get the sense that if this had just been kind of a nice, normal guy who rolled with the punches, had a few quips up his sleeve, and was willing to play ball with these guys, that it would have gone really well for them, and they would have looked like just kind of any other normal church in the area. And it wouldn't have caused this guy to then like post an article on their website exposing the fact that like he dodged all these questions, and these were the pre-approved questions that they sent. And you know, they stabbed themselves in the foot. They don't like guns, Jehovah's Witnesses, but they love knives. And that's the message of this channel. I don't know what I'm saying.
So how did you get involved?
Yeah, I would say I was raised around the faith of Jehovah's Witnesses, not strict adherent. And I got into my teen years and I became serious about examining what the Bible said against the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was fully convinced of the truthfulness of it.
As a
Made
teenager.
the education based on that.
Didn't say his age.
Why is this a change? I'm going to ask that you have a
Or didn't say
multicolored
his age. Let me
tie.
get that again.
Serious about examining, not strict adherent. And I got into my teen years and I became serious about examining what the Bible said against the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was fully convinced of the truthfulness of it, and made a dedication based on that.
So that I think that's actually important. You know, he said during my teen years, and that is not an accident. Something that they actively want to avoid mentioning in their public interviews is the fact that they do baptize minors. And like I was baptized at age 14, which at the time was considered a little late in life for me because I came from such a spiritual family, and my dad was an elder, my grandfather, and a bunch of my uncles were elders. So it was seen as surprising that I waited so long to get baptized. And of course, I've had many people on this channel write in that they were baptized as young children. The website, jw.org itself, has stories on there right now about kids being baptized at age 8, maybe even younger. This is a thing that they do. But the thing that is strategic, and the reason why they want trained reps out there, is to know to say things like in my teen years instead of when I was 14, because teen years encompasses 18, which is and 19, which would probably be seen as less controversial than baptizing someone when they're 13. And so like that's kind of what they want. They want people to know what not to say and how not to cause potential legal jeopardy for them or more online scrutiny than they're currently getting.
Okay. Why is this a change? I'm going to ask that you have a multicolored tie, a multicolored shirt, and I don't think you're wearing black pants. Traditionally, white shirt, black tie, black pants. Why are you different?
I think you might be thinking about the Latter-day Saints.
Is that?
Yeah,
I think the Mormons do that.
Yeah, the Mormons
so I've
do
confused
that.
it.
It's
okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I've seen people, women, men, come to the door. And
why do women have to wear? Again, these are three. I'm going to throw some at you. Why do they have to wear a skirt? We had neighbors who were Jehovah's Witness, and the daughter every day had to wear a skirt when she went to school.
Yeah, well, people's personal decisions are personal decisions.
So it's not a rule.
Not with regard to our secular activities, no.
Okay.
Oh, see, that's another good dodge there. That's another good dodge. It is not a rule with regards to our secular activities. So, like, yes, girls may be allowed by their parents to wear jeans to school or pants or whatever, or shorts. But is that allowed in the door-to-door ministry? No, it is very explicitly not allowed. And yes, they do have to wear a skirt in the ministry. I almost wish that he hadn't clarified what he meant, because it would have been interesting to see how Philip James Bono would have responded to that. But he's not wrong. With regards to their secular activities, they do not have to wear skirts. But these strict, like, moral mandates, combined with what he refers to as people's personal consciences, allows for really extreme members who do make their daughters wear skirts to school and are really strict about the tightness of their boys' clothes, because the organization keeps going on about how tight pants are gay. That it allows for really, really extreme behavior in the parents that is perfectly accepted within the bounds of the religion. And yes, there are parents who are more liberal, I guess you would call it. I don't think my parents were too strict on dress and grooming stuff growing up, but I had friends whose parents were very strict, and they had to dress like witnesses in the publications who wore khakis and golf shirts all the time. Like, now I'm growing out my hair because I was only ever allowed to have my hair about the length of my dad, who's a firefighter who had like a military crew cut all the time. And so, yeah, everything from the length of your hair to the tightness of your clothes to the kinds of clothes you're allowed to wear absolutely are dictated by the group. This guy is being sneaky.
All right. There have been some people who say if they try to leave the church, they lose family members. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm not in a position to comment on that being local. That's more of an organizational level. I can.
Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. If a member came to a door, if a Jehovah's Witness knocked on your door tomorrow and you asked them that question, they wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm not in a position to answer that," because they would probably go right then and there to the website and to the lying article where they lie about stuff about shunning. And I posted a link to my JW FAQ article responding to the JW.org article. It was like articleception there. But yeah, I posted my rebuttal to that because he, I think in his follow-up email to Bill, links that one of these articles about how no, Jehovah's Witnesses don't break up families. But this dodge that he is not in a position to comment on this is exactly what Jeffrey Jackson did, governing body member in the Australian Royal Commission, which we'll be talking about later. He said, that's not my position. I can't comment on that because that's not my assignment. And it's absolute bullshit. Governing body member Jeffrey Jackson, his assignment is the entire field of Jehovah's Witnesses. And this guy, seemingly all he can do is point to articles on the website, which surely he's read. He should be expected to do the bare minimum that any other Jehovah's Witness should do. If a Jehovah's Witness was confronted at the door with that, they would have to answer it. And the fact that this guy won't comment on shunning and stuff like that is so cowardly. And I don't know how this guy sleeps at night. I don't think he probably did sleep very well after this interview, quite frankly, because even though it didn't go that poorly for him, this was probably personally a disaster.
If you'd like, I'd be happy to email you policies on that from the organization or provide some information.
So there
on
is a
someone who
policy that addresses that.
There is a policy. In
Skirts
fact,
it.
if you look on our website, there's even some information on that, jw.org. There's a nice search bar, but I'll arrange to make sure you get that information.
And you know that there is a group right now currently that is local that is trying to get the message out that there are dangers to being a part of the Jehovah's Witness religion for that very reason. You know, there's a group out there currently.
Actually, I did not personally. I've been unaware of that, but again, I can't speak to.
Did he know about it impersonally? I wonder if Ron Pima is still in chat or if anybody knows what this local group is. Like if it is some dedicated group or is it like just kind of, there's been through the XJW subreddit, like a group has made these stickers and posters that people can put up with QR codes that go to like JW Facts and other resources that show dangers of Jehovah's Witness policies. And I wonder if they're talking about that. But I like this comment from Pomo Sapien, which is a great username. I've used a few terms, by the way, Pimo, physically in, mentally out, Pomo, physically out, mentally out. That evasion 100% answers their question. And to me, I don't understand why they keep stabbing themselves in the foot. I'll keep using that expression. It makes sense. They keep on putting themselves in these positions where they're going to have to be evasive. And the very fact that they are evasive is culty, like it's blatantly culty to people. And like, this was the start of my deconstruction process as an active member, is when I started to encounter things that seemed wrong, like when I started to really think about shunning and the fact that I couldn't just leave because of conscientious disagreements with the church's stance on like LGBTQ issues, for example. And I would like go to the website and try and find answers that were satisfactory. I was like, but these articles are evasive. Like they don't really answer the questions, or they change the subject, or they answer a different question that isn't really at the heart of the matter. I think the good news is that like clearly this guy is seeing through his bullshit. And I think anybody listening to this program is going to think like, wow, what was the deal with this guy? So it's hard for me to understand like how beneficial is this to them? It still seems very much in the pilot phases. They're still trying to figure it out. This is very new for them to have any kind of public facing media that is like systematically organized. They have local reps in territories, and they're actively reaching out to media organizations for positive press. But how good is this going to be? I think my suspicion is that it is simply to drown out bad news. Like if you search Robert Hendricks, as I did earlier when I pulled up that video, you know, the first 10 results are not XJW stuff. And I was on like my logged in YouTube feed, which is supposed to personalize it to your preferences, right? It was still all these local news things. And that's interesting because if a Jehovah's Witness was looking for critical information and they see the first page of responses or search results is mostly positive coverage, fluff pieces like this, or what this was supposed to be, you know, that might be mollifying to them in some way. It might make them feel like, oh, maybe things aren't so bad. And they definitely, through their websites like Bitter Winter, which just put out tons and tons of articles contesting every piece of negative information about them, it monopolizes the Google News feed. And so part of me wonders, like, are they just doing this just to drown out bad news? Just like, let's create content. Let's just churn out content. Nobody has to watch it. It just has to exist to drown out the bad stuff.
The policy organizationally, right?
Fair enough.
Just locally. And I hope you understand that.
And I'm going to tell you, I understand that, and I'm not going to put you in a position where I brought you in to ambush you by any means. But I have to ask those. I would not be doing my job if I didn't ask those questions.
No, I
kind of knew knew the answer you were going
He can appreciate that. I don't know if he does, but he could hypothetically appreciate it.
to give, but I still have to ask the question.
Yep.
What do you want people to know today when you walk out of this studio? What do you want people to know and perceive about your appearance, and about not your physical appearance, but the appearance of the program and the Jehovah's Witness faith?
Yeah. I think we want people to acknowledge that we're just sharing something positive, right? When we go in our ministry outreach, door to door, or in our
something positive is so vague. It's standing out to me because I'm realizing now, like in real time, I said that so many times. Like, we're just here to preach something positive. Something positive. Like, it's so vague. It means absolutely nothing. It's like, not bad. What we're saying is not bad. It's not weird. It's just kind of generally good vibe. We're just the good vibe police. The good vibe. No, I won't say that. It's really out of touch. There's a good comment. I don't know. Do I still have it on the screen? From somebody who just like, this just shows how out of touch. Yes, Dickers said it just shows how astonishingly out of touch the leadership is with real worldly people. And this is the thing, like, to them, they're like, this is a good idea, what we're doing. Good. Here's a good idea we have. Let's all go out to AM radio stations and assume that these like morning talk hosts aren't going to try and just make the show fun. Absolutely bananas. I don't know what they're thinking.
cart activity. It's not a membership drive. We're not looking to sign people up. We're not.
More bullshit. There's another thing I lied about as a witness. We're not here to sign people up. That's the only reason you're there. It is go forth and make disciples, not go forth and say something positive and, hey, maybe they go to the website and see something to click on and it's all up to them. Like, no, this is why people stuck their foots in the doors. It's because they're trying to sign people up. They have a life-saving message. They're saving your life, don't you know, Mr. Keeler? He's just out here trying to save your life and stop you from dying.
Looking for donations. We're looking to share something
They're now looking for
positive
donations
to help people cope with the problems that we're all
But
facing, right?
Do go to the website where we have that donation button just right there. It's super easy.
People's lives are changing today. People are
By the way, you know, I won't bullshit you. I do want donations. Super chats are free. That's not true. They're not free. The very definition is they cost money. But I will say, I think they have de-emphasized asking for donations in the door-to-door ministry. I think that they have just completely given up on that. They've gone through so many iterations of like, have a special little pouch that you put the money in. I remember at various times in my life, there were pushes to be like, no, we need to be asking for donations because the good news needs preached and this work is important and we have to fund the branch and all our publishing facilities. And now it really does seem like they're just kind of resigned to be like, there's no good way to go to people's doors and ask for money. But that donate button, still there.
Potentially busier than they've ever been before in all of history with so many distractions. And that's why our cart ministry outreach is so successful, because it makes it available in places where people wouldn't be home, right? Things like that.
And are you finding there are a lot of people that are looking for an answer of some sort? They're struggling. They're looking for.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. I mean, who's not dealing with a challenge or a trial today, right?
Yeah.
Difficulty, family, extended family, friends.
They could have. It's very entertaining to me to know now. I think I was just listening to this earlier. The whole time they had this camera angle on this guy and they just didn't use it, I think, because I think they liked having this angle on his phone and they realized it was funny and ridiculous that he was so tied to just like, he wouldn't even set it on the table. He had this thing up, he was scrolling through it, clicking through it. And only now at the tail end of this interview, they come to this guy.
Community group. We're all facing challenges. And one of the things I'd state as a fact is Jehovah's Witnesses are convinced, unequivocally convinced, that the Bible can help provide positive, satisfying answers to those issues.
Okay. And then I would ask you, what is I'm assuming there are rules.
Just the Bible, generally. They do this too. Like, it's just the Bible. We're just trying to get it out there about the Bible. Like, no, you don't believe that. Stop lying to people. You don't believe that the Bible can help anybody unless Jehovah's Witnesses tell you the cheat codes to access what the Bible really means. What does the Bible really teach? They believe they have the only correct interpretation of the Bible. They have the truth, and they are the truth. Something I didn't point out earlier is, like, you'll notice this Bono gentleman, no relation, keeps pointing out, like, or he keeps referring to it as the faith, which is what most religions would do. But witnesses don't ever call it the faith. I've never heard that term. It's always the truth. That's what it's called. And so this idea that they're just there to like raise awareness of the Bible or respect for the Bible or study the Bible, it's like, no, it's not true. They think that they have the correct interpretation of the Bible. It just so happens that that interpretation includes the fact that there is such a thing as a governing body. And oh, wouldn't you look at, we have a governing body. And oh, if you calculate the Bible math in this exact way, they were appointed by Jesus in this year. That's what they're there to do. It is not just vague, positive, good vibes Bible camp.
The church has, or guidelines or rules, correct me if they're not rules, on when you become a part of the ministry, when you become a part of going out and going door to door. What are the guidelines with that? Is it 5 years old? Do you have to reach communion? Do you do communion? I guess I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
there.
apparently.
Yeah,
Bill.
sorry.
Good point. Oh my God. First of all, I have a lot of questions. Apparently, like, what the fuck? Of course, this is an interview show. You're there as a media rep for Jehovah's Witnesses. You're there to answer their questions, but he isn't. He's there to answer his own questions that he gave the interview. Like, here, ask me this. So it seems like we're having a fake conversation. This is not. I'm not a broadcast professional, but that seems like the bare minimum. The few interviews that I've done, Jenny Blue pointed out like a nice little dodge that I didn't even clock. Like, the host Keeler asked, like, "Oh, are you helping people?" He doesn't really answer. The guy's like, "Well, yeah, everybody has issues." Also, side note, we have a cart that claims to address those issues. Ridiculous, embarrassing. 0 out of 10.
So.
What we do is
communion. When you become a part of going out and going door to door? What are the guidelines with that? Is it 5 years old? Do you have to reach communion? Do you do communion? I guess I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
there.
apparently.
Yeah,
Bill.
sorry.
What we do is we structure an understanding of the scriptures first, and then, of course, someone can represent Jehovah's Witnesses in the ministry.
Like, if this was the door-to-door ministry, like, I have absolutely zero fucking respect for these corporate robots that they send out with pre-prepared talking points. Like, but I do have respect for Jehovah's Witnesses who are doing what they think that they're supposed to be doing and like really study their own materials and try and make sense of it to other people. Like, I don't agree with any of it, but I do have a respect for that in a certain way. Like, if people are really willing to engage in good faith with criticisms that householders or interviewers bring up. And what he's asking, like, if I was out in service and somebody asked, do you guys do communion? I would answer like, well, we do, we handle it differently from other churches. Here's why, we could go through the scriptures. Isn't that what it's all about? That's what this guy wants to know. He wants to know just general information about Jehovah's Witnesses because they're weird and secretive. And if you go to their cards now and ask them questions, they're just like, go to our website, go away. Why are we here with this card? I don't know. To tell you to go to the website. And so, like, I feel like less and less, not even these spokespeople will answer basic questions that, like, when I was a 14-year-old, I was expected to know how to answer this. Tell 14-year-old Jake to go on this podcast back when podcasts didn't really exist. It would have been a dream come true. I will say, watching this, I think I would have been good at this, which is scary to think about. But of course, I probably would have been quickly kicked off of it because I would have gone on and like tried to do bits and funny voices, and it wouldn't have gone well.
They have to qualify, but again, those are more like higher
So
level.
you just don't go. You just don't. It's like, okay, you've reached the age of 7. Now you're going out with your parents. You have to be trained
Check
to go
this
out
out.
or qualify.
Correct.
Okay.
No, that's incorrect. What you just said was wrong. This is a lie. Anybody, if you are raised as a witness, you are going out in the ministry in your stroller. Your parents are pushing your stroller up to the door. I know this is true. My uncle, when they had a baby, I remember going out in service with them and their little baby. He pushed the stroller, took the little baby out in service. Some of my earliest memories are being given permission to like ring the doorbell. I'm sure I gave my first presentation in the ministry when I was 6, maybe even earlier. Parents, there's no qualifications if you're raised in the ministry. You know, what they conveniently do is they'll say things that are like technically true of converts. They'll say things that are true of people who like convert when they're an adult. And like, yeah, if you're Bono's age and you go to and you discover Jehovah's Witnesses and start studying, like, yeah, they're not just going to let you go out in the door-to-door ministry with no training. In fact, they're going to be like, you have to make sure that you qualify to be an unbaptized publisher. But that's not what happens when you're a kid. When you're a kid, you are along for the ride. And you might even be along in a ride in some other person's car who are not your parents. And they'll take you up to the door. And yes, it is dangerous and creepy and culty. But the reason why he has no desire to dissuade Bill Keeler of this notion is because he knows that this would lead to uncomfortable follow-up questions.
And what is that process like?
I don't know if we got enough time this morning.
Okay. All right. Well, let's put it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I mean, you go through classes.
Keeler is like, no, I think we do have enough time. Just give me a short answer.
You go through, I mean,
Yeah, well, Jehovah's Witnesses attend meetings regularly. Part of those meetings are training for the ministry and
Okay.
things of that nature. So essentially, person comes to that understanding and then eventually could qualify to represent the congregation.
I know that I'm a Methodist. My wife is Catholic. We fight all the time. I think that's probably the reason.
That's the reason. But
That is, yeah.
This guy thinks he's like funny. This is not good. Yeah, that's the reason why you and your wife fight. Big swing from this guy who can't even answer a fucking question about his own religion, truthfully.
But if so, when you become a Jehovah's Witness, you would not marry someone who's not a Jehovah's Witness.
But again, policy matters.
That's a policy.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I just prefer not to comment on something that's kind of above my pay grade figuratively.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
As a volunteer.
Fair enough.
Yeah, see, it's like he accidentally exposed it. What he's saying doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, there is no pay grade. So, by definition, it's not above his pay grade. It's like, doesn't that just immediately tell you somebody told this guy that he's not allowed to talk about certain things? That's weird. It's very weird that the people who they send in the public-facing media sphere are able to say less than your average member knocking at your door. I think this is a bit of a problem. It makes them look more dodgy than I think a witness actually would be if you talk to them. Now, a witness might just straight up lie to you and say, like, no, we don't shun people, or no, we don't believe that only Jehovah's Witnesses will survive Armageddon, because a witness might, first of all, not have a great grasp of their own faith. They might just say it because they don't want the things they believe to be true, or they might have their own personal rationalization of things in the religion. Like, I know that most witnesses probably don't actually believe, or at least most of the ones that I talked to, and I didn't believe this when I was a witness, I didn't believe that only Jehovah's Witnesses would survive Armageddon. That did not reflect my understanding of what we taught. But when I started doing research, and like, you go on JW Facts and you just see hundreds of quotes all lined up that explicitly say over and over, you have to be a Jehovah's Witness. You have to be in good standing in the congregation to survive Armageddon. if you can't follow direction now, then you're not going to qualify for everlasting life. If you're not active in the ministry, you're not going to qualify for everlasting life. Like, yeah, all of this stuff that this guy has absolutely no desire to talk about.
Anything
Is
else?
your wife? Are you married? And is your wife
Yep.
part of the faith?
She is. Yep.
Were you
Yep.
allowed to marry outside of your faith, or would that have resulted in you being labeled as bad association, and maybe somebody gives a marking talk about why you're not supposed to date outside of the Lord?
We share that in common. That's probably why we don't argue.
Okay. All right.
Damn,
But
dude.
this
Our
might be
marriage is
policy,
better
but
than
does the
yours.
male have dominance over the female in the Jehovah's Witness faith?
Dominance? Absolutely not. No, we would never.
Who
ever
wears
use
the
that
pants
phrase.
is what I'm saying to you.
Again, I'll direct you.
apparently
You
as
could
a-
look.
No, on this you want this is not time for fun and games for Philip Bono. He will not indulge in these silly questions. But yeah, he's asking. I thought this was a really interesting question. Like, do the men share dominance? And of course, absolutely yes. What is if somebody is supposed to be in subjection to somebody else, is that not dominance? But no. No, that would sound bad. So he's like, no, absolutely not. We don't believe that. Now, is he going to answer any questions about headship? Is he going to do anything like that?
Look it up in jw.org. Look under head dominance. Absolutely not. No, we would never.
Who
ever
wears
use
the
that
pants
phrase.
is what I'm saying to you.
Again, I'll direct you.
apparently
You
as
could
a-
look it up in jw.org. Look under headship and you'll find it. And you'll find a
Okay.
scriptural answer, right? That's the thing. Paul.
Okay.
What bullshit is this? Why have a guy go do an interview if he's going to say, look at our website? He's there. He is the guy. He's the face of the website right now. You have a human jw.org right in front of you. You should be the search engine. This is not good. I would have counseled this gentleman if I was his overseer. I would have given him a demerit and stripped the jw.org pin off of his chest and told him to hand in his gun.
All right.
We're not going to make up
knife, sorry.
policies that don't have a basis in the
Well, you know what that is, though. What is it? Is it male? Is it
headship, and you'll find it. And you'll find a
Okay.
scriptural answer, right? That's the thing. Paul.
okay? All right.
We're not going to make up policies that don't have a basis in the
Well, you
scripture.
know,
Whoa. We're not going to make up policies that don't have a basis in the scripture. What are pioneers? Can any Jehovah's Witnesses tell me the scripture for pioneers and our requirements and turning in regular field service reports to be counted as an active member? And if you don't turn in field service reports for 3 months or 6 months or whatever, you're considered inactive. Like, the entire structure of this organization, including, by the way, having a secret internal PR manual that you don't want anybody to read and sending out representatives with pre-approved questions, none of that has any basis in scripture, other than they can say vaguely like, oh, we have to do things decently and by arrangement. That's not what the Bible says. This entire structure is based on shit that's not in the Bible, but they just don't like to admit it. And I sincerely guess, just judging by how brain dead this Watchtower rep is, that like he's never thought about this. He's never thought about the fact that what he's doing right now has no basis in scripture and makes him look like a crazy cult representative. Look like, I said.
know what that is, though. What is it? Is it male? Is it female? Is it? Because in my house, it's female.
I will tell you this:
Um,
I don't make
Mine
decisions
too.
in my family. I don't make decisions without consulting my wife.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
That leads to a happy marriage.
Who makes the ultimate decision, though?
Well, we like to think our understanding of the scriptures guides it.
Okay. All right.
This is such horseshit. The fucking family brochure on their website that they advertise on the front page all the time will tell you, like, in the first chapter, I think me and Christina talked about this just like a couple weeks ago. Like, it says right there, ultimately the husband makes the decisions and the wife supports that decision. But what he does is like this very politician thing where he's like, well, I'll tell you this. I consult with my wife. That's not what anybody asked. And I like that this host was like, okay, but like really though, who makes the ultimate decision? And he once again says, the Bible does. No, the Bible is not used in decision-making when it comes to, it comes down to the whims of the spiritual head. because not everybody agrees on what the Bible says within Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, they know what they're supposed to say, and then there's what they actually think in their own brains. And sometimes those things don't align.
Fair enough. All right. I know that I can't, there's certain things I'm not going to get answers to, and I want to be respectful, and believe me, anybody in this world that would be willing to go out and knock on doors, not knowing what's on the other side of that
Especially
door,
nowadays.
is you gotta respect that.
You don't have to respect. I must say, you don't actually have to respect this at all if you don't want to. People going around spreading lies is not anything that you have to respect. I mean, like, I understand what he's saying. There is a certain respectable quality about, like, oh, wow, these people are really, they really believe it. They really are following what the Bible says. But no, because as he said earlier, it is a requirement. You can't just choose not to do it as a witness if you want to be considered a member in good standing, which is what you need to survive Armageddon. Like, this just isn't true. Stop lying to me, Bono. I know it's not his name, but that's who he is now.
That's just, I guess, how I feel. I don't respect it when I'm sitting. I just sat down to eat something, and I'm that. But you don't have to.
Come on.
You don't have to answer the door, right?
We don't force people to
Right,
come to their
right.
door. No,
Have Ring doorbells changed things for you guys?
they have.
Yeah.
They have. Yeah, I'm a lot quieter in my conversation with my partner at a Ring doorbell out of respect for the homeowner.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
We want to be courteous to them.
Because they can play it back. They'll listen
Yeah.
to it back.
Yeah.
Little things like the fact that he said homeowner instead of householder are things that they're specifically directed to avoid, by the way. Like, any witness watching this, like, they would have probably said householder. But he said homeowner, which is a more normal and less internal word.
Everything
Well, you
is
could
changed.
probably have conversations with homeowners or renters without even having face-to-face conversations.
I
with them.
actually have. Yeah, more than once. That's been the case.
I do have some listener questions, and I'm judging them as to because I understand what you don't want to do is come on here and get pelted by people. I understand that, and fair enough. But I have Wayne asking, has there ever been a Jehovah's Witness president in the United States?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, not to mine either. And Wayne said, don't forget politicians.
Isn't this question regarding, like, I don't remember what president it is. Blue Envelope Channel had a video on it. I want to say it was like that there were rumors that, like, FDR was a witness or was raised a witness or something. But there was some U.S. president where there was some question as to whether or not he had a history with, like, the Bible students or witnesses or something. And he kind of went through and debunked it. What a weird question.
Knock too.
You did mention
we included them, Boy
Mhm.
Scouts, Girl Scouts. And all right. Okay. Very interesting. How did you guys handle, I say you guys, I hope that's not disrespectful. How did you handle the pandemic, the mask mandate, all of that? Was there a Jehovah's Witness uprising to say this is wrong? Or did you accept the fact that there was a virus out there? Or am I going out of the boundaries here?
No, I could tell you. In fact, we published a good deal of information throughout.
See, this is a very good host. This guy's had a radio show for a long time. He knows how to be affable. He knows how to ask, like, challenging questions while kind of keeping the other person's ego intact, and, like, kind of tactical passive aggression. It's I like this guy. He's very, and he has a great radio voice, which is the most important thing.
COVID. All of our
This is Phil.
in-person
This is
minute-
Bono's dream question, by the way, because this is what they were talking about for 2 years straight. Was like, COVID has changed everything, and we are obeying the rules.
ministry and meetings went to a virtual platform.
You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
for
okay.
the safety of people involved.
It was very hard for and people of faith, especially. It was
Yeah.
very, very difficult.
Yeah, when you're used to the camaraderie, the comfort, the support of a congregation, and you don't have
Yeah.
it in person, we agree. But we were thrilled in early 22 when we started meeting in person again.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was a really nice opportunity. Later at the September 1st of 22, we started our in-person door-to-door ministry again, which had been absent for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk to the Amish and see if they would come out publicly, because it's always been the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Amish. There was a mystery.
Yeah.
I think this is a brilliant idea to come out and have someone that people can talk to and ask questions of. I think it's quite brilliant. I think it's smart. Again, please talk to the Amish.
Yeah, see what you can do for us there.
See, like, there is a genuine interest among religious people as to what, these more like weird, isolated religions are teaching. And I think his interest was largely just sincere. And he was very kind to this like obstinate Jehovah's Witness representative who wasn't any fun. I just noticed there's a funny pause face where he looks like he's giving a knowing laugh to his co-host here. But yeah, I think Jehovah's Witnesses are doing this in large part for that reason. Like, they know that they have a reputation for being secretive. They very consciously designed like their new kingdom halls for a long time with these like big front-facing windows, which of course had the dual benefit of it's much easier to resell that to become a bank or a Burger King, which is what they do. They get to build buildings with cheap materials and free labor, and then they get to flip them and sell them to a franchise and make a bunch of money. But they do take these criticisms on board in their own weird, secretive way. But I think Bill's kind of trying to give a little advice, like, yeah, we've actually wanted to talk to a witness for a while, but they wouldn't let us talk to anybody, and now we're excited to talk to you, and you're being weird. You're being weird about this. Why are you weird, Bono? So let's talk about some weirdness with Phil. And I keep on calling him Phil Bono, which is not his name at all. It's Patrick DeBono. Okay, so let me pull this up on the screen here. They posted an article on their website, kind of like a summary of this interview that they did. And recapping some of this stuff. In the spirit of full disclosure, and the link to this is in the description, by the way. In the spirit of full disclosure, DeBono asked that the interview be restricted to questions about the new outreach and not about other issues. There is a local group warning people of what they believe are dangers involving JW. They refer to them just as JW, which I guess is accurate, because now I'm having a grammar existential crisis, because I do a lot of times I'll put JW and then a lowercase s, be like JWs, but JW stands for Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't need to pluralize it. It's like ATM machine. Oh my goodness, I learned something from this radio website today, including not being able to leave the faith without being forced to break contact with family members and even relationships between parents and their children. When asked about that topic and the local former members who are speaking out against the religion, he referred us to their website and people who are above his pay grade. DeBono asked that we not take phone calls from listeners during the interview. Like, the way that this is characterized, accurately, by the way, but yeah, this is no good. This is no good for Watchtower. This didn't go the way they had hoped. So here are the approved questions. These were the questions that were approved by Jehovah's Witnesses, and which I think these are the questions that they sent ahead of time to be asked as like suggested questions, which we saw in this leaked PR document. What does this kind of outreach involve? So outreach is their word. This is Watchtower's word that they want circulating, because outreach sounds better than preaching. Outreach, not outpreach, is probably what they said in the meeting. No. How is this different from what Jehovah's Witnesses have done in the past in their door-to-door ministry? Why have Jehovah's Witnesses, see here, they do the apostrophe S, as I've done so many times, brought this new type of outreach to Utica? Is this kind of car outreach ministry being done elsewhere? What have been the results locally? Will JW still come knock at my door? Nothing interesting could possibly be learned from these very boring questions that they simply copy and paste to all these small cities and localized broadcasts around the world. During the interview, we did respectfully ask additional questions, including some of the more controversial inquiries. In an email sent after the program, DeBono did address some of those questions, as he promised he would. I know you had a number of questions that I didn't answer during the interview, which I had let you know would be a possibility in advance, he said. Oh boy. And don't we just love passive-aggressive emails? Like, per my previous email, as I mentioned earlier, Here are links to a few articles on questions you asked. Hopefully these will help provide an answer to at least some of them, he wrote. On the questions about how some feel like they might lose family if they leave the faith, he referred us to the following links on their website. Do Jehovah's Witnesses shun those who used to belong to their religion? And do witnesses break up families or build them up? My written rebuttal to this breaking up families article is in the description if you want to read that. And every lie Watchtower tells about shunning video, I basically combined all of their FAQ articles on shunning into one for that video. Help for the family. This is a series of articles about how families can improve their relationships in general, on the questions of how does one become a Jehovah's Witness, blah, blah, blah. He said that he'll forward our additional questions on to someone at JW and that he'll provide them with our contact information. Oh, yeah. That I'll provide you with the contact information. I don't think he's going to be hearing back, personally. But I love this. So this is interesting, right? Like he says that's above my pay grade. Metaphorically, I'm a volunteer, but that just makes it even more arbitrary. Like, okay, so there's no pay reason. There aren't paid people who are allowed to answer these questions. So you're just being evasive for literally no reason. Yeah. So, okay. That's mostly that. That's that bit of business. I thought that was an interesting look into, just when somebody asks basic follow-up questions, not in a controversial way, not ambushing the person for like some kind of gotcha interview. You know, this guy is clearly nice and affable. He was religious himself. He's deferential towards religion. He's not going to be like, there is no God or something like that, or ask him, you know, why starving babies die every day. He's just asking basic things like, how does communion work? And the Watchtower guy's like, I'm not allowed to talk about that. We don't talk about Jesus. I'm only allowed to talk about a website. And the only thing I'm going to talk about is that you should go to it. Okay, so another like really noticeable and notable thing happened in like the cult world this past week, which was Danny Masterson of that 70s show fame was sentenced to life in prison with like 30 years before he qualifies for parole, which of course could be denied. So I wanted to look at like not too much of the gory details of this because the testimony really is like very harrowing and scary and upsetting. And if you want to watch that stuff, you could not only like check out the trials, but also channels like Growing Up in Scientology and Cults to Consciousness. Our friend Shalise covered that and interviewed one of their key witnesses. But there were a couple things in the testimony that I thought were interesting parallels to Jehovah's Witnesses that I thought might be interesting to shout out. So I don't know. Do you like it when I talk about other cults on stream? Sound off in the comments. But this was big news. And, you know, it's big news, I should say, because Danny Masterson is a Scientologist. And it was not just his own abuse, but the way the Scientology church helped cover up and intimidate the victims. You know, they helped cover up the abuse and intimidate victims of the abuse. Something was said of Jane Doe 1, or said by, I should say. Let's see here. Sorry, you're not supposed to have dead air in a broadcast, which I just realized I did for a really long time. I wanted to find it specifically. Yeah, okay. She recalled confiding in a Church of Scientology ethics officer afterward who she said forced her to make peace with what had happened and made her complete ethics programs where she says she was taught she was responsible for the alleged crime. My understanding my entire life was that you can never be a victim, no matter what condition you find yourself in life, no matter how horrible, you are responsible. You created that. Which is, of course, horrifying. And Scientologists are very on their face about this. It really is like this personal responsibility narrative is really important to the whole structure. But the witnesses also have this mentality, and I think they go about it in a subtle way where, yes, bad things happen. unforeseen circumstances. What's the scripture they say? Like, time and unforeseen occurrence befalls us all. So yes, sometimes random things happen for no reason. They don't deny that. But also, they absolutely have the mentality of, well, but also if you're careless with your dress and grooming, you might invite that. You know, there's that infamous Awake article that talks about being kind to your rapist and how you should view him as a human being, which is still, I believe, available on Watchtower Online Library. And they do have this thing of like, there is always an excuse where it's kind of your fault. You know, are you being humble enough? Are you being chaste enough? Are you being yielding enough? Are you causing divisions in the congregation? You know, there's always a reason why maybe it's your fault. And so that mentality, I think, is very much there in Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just not as extreme or not like as on its face. This is the part I was looking for. Jane Doe said she reported the incident to her Scientology ethics officer, understanding that reporting a Scientologist in good standing, like Masterson, would make her a suppressive person and guilty of a high crime. My life would be over, she told jurors, explaining that she feared expulsion. My parents would have to disconnect from me. My daughter couldn't go to school. I wouldn't have anywhere to work or live. I wouldn't have anywhere to go. All of her resources and social life was built within the church. She said she later wrote to the church's international justice chief and asked for permission to report Masterson, but was deterred. She reported the rape anyway in 2004, at which point she said she received a call from the chief telling her, "You have no idea how fucked you are." The LAPD did not pursue charges at the time. A decision Jane Doe number 1 said left her feeling scared scared. She signed an NDA and accepted a $400,000 settlement from Masterson, citing pressure from the actor and the church. And all of the victims and survivors mentioned the role that Scientology played in the mentality of, like, in their own mentality of being a victim of abuse, and that was their fault, but also in the cover-up, in the intimidation, the way they would stalk, the way Scientologists would stalk people to intimidate them and spread lies about them. But it reminded me of what was said by BCG in the Australian Royal Commission. So I pulled up case study 29, which you can find with a quick Google search. It's easy to find the Australian Royal Commission website if you search Australian Royal Commission Jehovah's Witnesses. In this document on page 11, it says the Royal Commission heard that BCG had previously found it difficult to make her complaint to the police for fear of being disfellowshipped. BCG told the Royal Commission that when she decided to leave the organization, she was shunned and ostracized by her congregation for doing so. So, you know, both of these religions create a culture of fear, a fear around reporting basic abuse because you're going to be blamed for it. Anything sexual is partially your fault somehow. That is still doctrinal, by the way, no matter what these media reps go around trying to say under oath sometimes. When you look at the child abuse forms that they fill out, and Mark O'Donnell has exposed this, they have willing participant as an option. Was the victim a willing participant in their own sexual assault? So this is still very much their mentality. They just try to be sneakier about it and try not to put it in writing as much. But the cultures are very similar. You know, cults operate in very similar ways. And Jehovah's Witnesses have this same issue right now where there's a culture of fear against reporting abuse because you are worried that you're going to be blamed for it and punished in some way, which you very well might be. You might be reproved or even disfellowshipped for like sexual impropriety or immorality or whatever the fuck. And you can be disowned. There's this culture of not taking your brother to court, of not causing or casting dishonor on Jehovah's name, bringing negative attention to the organization. All of these things are playing into people's heads when they experience the worst possible thing a person can experience. They also have all of this religious indoctrination telling them, maybe you shouldn't, or maybe what you're doing is wrong, or maybe it was your fault. And I think it's like important to keep that in mind. Like Scientology gets a lot of media attention, as it rightfully should, because they do have a lot of power, especially with all of their very rich celebrities witnesses don't have as many celebrities and they don't give as much prominence to them, but these issues still remain and they're just not given the media attention, I think, because, you know, these abuse cases didn't involve the star of a sitcom. The Australian Royal Commission involved normal people, which just generally doesn't get the same kind of media attention. Now for something lighter or worse and more horrifying. Depends on how you look at it. So I made the horrible, horrible mistake of going to jw.org recently. I don't go to the website too terribly often because I try to hate myself less and treat myself better if I can. But I wanted to watch a video that I had seen, like the title of, which I think is going to be the subject of my next video. There was a morning worship on humility and how Jehovah loves humble people. And we all know how humble it is to claim that you alone have truth. And if anybody disobeys you, you'll be disfellowshipped. It's super humble, right? So I'm going to do a video on that. And I also saw this little number. And a little number is appropriate because this is a little ditty that I found utterly disgusting. I love to clean. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a cute song teaching children how to clean their rooms, which is ostensibly what this is, right? But if we look at, I love having sheet music for these shitty songs. Shit music. Jehovah loves clean people. He made the earth so clean. And the next verse, Jehovah loves clean people. He wants us to be clean. Jehovah loves clean people. He'll help us to be clean. See, like, it's not, yes, this is a cute video about like cleaning your room in the Kingdom Hall and whatever, but the idea of like ontologically clean people versus ontologically dirty people is deeply harmful, problematic thinking. Eisenhower is the alleged possible witness president. Okay, it was Eisenhower. So this language is so upsetting. Like, you know, when you hear like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and racist conspiracy theories, they use this terminology. There are clean people and there are dirty people. And as Jenny points out in chat, clean equals purity culture. It is not so much that they want you to just, you know, wear deodorant, although they do. And I do too, please. But also, you have to be pure spiritually. It is this spiritual cleanliness. And let's just watch this bullshit. I'm going to warn you. Act like I probably should have given a content warning before talking about Danny Masterson. But specific trigger warning for XJWs. This is a very catchy song, and I listened to it only once and have had it stuck in my head. It'll be interesting to see if I get a copyright strike for playing this song. I almost...
Jehovah loves clean people.
What is this area that they're living in, by the way? They live on this... They live in, like, cabins. These, like, really expensive, beautiful 3-story cabins on huge plots of land where they have a single recycle bin outside of their fenced-in area. What the fuck is this? It's not the New World, I'm assuming, because I'm assuming you wouldn't need like recycling tubs in the New World.
He made the earth so clean. I can bring him so much joy when I put away my toys.
I can bring him so much joy when I put away my toys. Is it the Lord Farquaad song from Shrek? What? I haven't seen Shrek in a long time, but I don't know what song that is. It sounds like the Disney song, maybe. I think, first of all, great point. They do have a real issue with homeless people or unhoused people. They are very afraid of encountering homeless people in their aforementioned highly mobile next generation cart technology. As I directly experienced, there's a lot of stigma against any unhoused people. And like, I was going to bring this up later, but let's just talk about it now. Like, I think that this creates a real, like another layer of stress for Jehovah's Witnesses who are basically mandated to be poor. First of all, I think that they appeal to a lot of impoverished people because the more in need you are of help, the more you're looking for it, and the more you are going to want to accept a community, accept some easy, comforting answers to really complicated questions. Like, don't worry, Jehovah's going to work all this out. And so they attract a lot of people who are in bad financial situations, and those who are not, like, they kind of keep them in bad financial situations. They want you to work part-time and pioneer. They don't want you to pursue higher education, so you probably don't have some super prestigious degree or anything. They want you to work a trade job and preach and be at the meetings early so you can help and, give money to the organization. So they create a lot of poor people. There are a lot of poor Jehovah's Witnesses. And now we were poor Jehovah's Witnesses, and now we're poor ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And so they do this, but then they also have this mandate of Jehovah needs you to be clean. You have to wear a suit and a dress, and or if you're a man, you have to wear like a suit and a tie and dress shoes and a collared shirt, and you have to, have your hair cut short and wear nice hair products or whatever. Like, they create a lot of added costs for people, like not just like getting a suit, but keeping it dry clean. Like, these are added expenses that a lot of people don't have to worry about. Like, a lot of people don't have to worry about owning multiple full suits or dresses. And if you're a woman in the organization, having various outfits for all different kinds of like occasions and temperature and weather that are somehow still modest, it creates this barrier that makes it even harder to be a poor person. And so that's another added reason why I hate this bullshit. Another reason why I hate it is because the pressure of being a kid as a Jehovah's Witness is so great. It is so, like, the amount of anxiety I had as a little kid is really upsetting to think about now, because every mistake you make is not just, oh no, I disappointed mom and dad. It's, I disappointed Jehovah. I disappointed the most high being in the entire universe, who's watching everything I do and who's going to destroy wicked people. If I'm a wicked person, I'll be destroyed. And you can't just follow your parents. You have to make your own dedication to Jehovah. So you really, really have to do it for him. Like, this elevates cleaning your room into not just a thing to do because it's a good thing to do and a good habit to learn, but because you need to please Jehovah. And if you don't clean your room, God's going to be mad at you. There are a lot of parents who are very nice parents, but there's only so unabusive you can be when you're constantly telling your child that, like, if you don't clean their room, like, God's going to be mad at you.
Jehovah loves clean people. That's why I love to clean.
They never show people living in like a 2-bedroom apartment either. They always show them living in, somebody clarified it was the Swiss Alps. I think that's right. So they live in a huge 3-story house in the Swiss Alps, big plot of land. And that's like all of their demonstrations take place in these nice suburban homes. And they just have absolutely no clue what the cost of living is anymore. It's completely absurd. They're so out of touch. And they think this won't make them look like a cult. Put this on the front page.
Jehovah loves clean people. He wants us to be clean.
He wants you to be clean. Jehovah, let's think about this, by the way. Jehovah loves clean people. Does he hate dirty people? Does he not love what they would call dirty people? Because what was Jesus's message again? Who did he preach to? Did he preach to the elites, to the clean people? Or did he associate most often with the sick and the poor and the ostracized in society? He would touch sick people when nobody else would, when it was culturally frowned upon to do so. Like, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe the Bible is the infallible word of God, but it does seem to me like if you are actually following Jesus' example, you would not put such an emphasis on loving clean people so much, because it's creepy and gross and often associated with disgusting racist language. But they are fucking idiots, and they have no self-awareness. So they're like, yeah, we'll have a song about how we love clean people. So what? I hate it. Thanks. I hate it.
So I'll go and clean my room. I can wash some dishes too.
I can watch some dishes too. Great singing performances. It's wonderful. And it's just like, I don't know, it's very weird. Like, wasn't at last year's convention, I remember reacting to some of the convention on stream, and like David Splain was talking about how it's so great. You know, did you know that you can teach children as young as 5 years old to do the laundry and make a simple meal? Like, they love this like 1950s values. I'm like, yeah, it's good to teach your kids how to do chores. I have zero issue with that at all. I have an issue with teaching your kids that if they don't do their chores, then they'll be murdered by God.
Hova loves clean people. That's why I love to clean. Jehovah loves clean people.
African people exist too. We're not just in the Swiss Alps, everybody. Some people live wherever this is, somewhere in Africa. The location of this year's drama, somewhere in Africa. They always depict Africa like this. It is only this. It is only huts and wash basins.
Will help us to
I don't like this. I don't like this little thing they just did.
loves clean people. Will help us
I don't like this. I can't really articulate why, but this is racist. I've just decided.
to be clean. All the happiness
Yeah.
it brings when we
Dress like white people. Dress like white business people in the 1950s for Jehovah to love you.
clean up all our things. Jehovah loves clean people. That's why
And what you should be doing is your homework. And if you're reading, don't read something fun. Don't read like the Phantom Toll Booth or whatever you read when you're a kid. Read this scary Bible story book about all the people God killed for not being clean enough.
I love to clean.
Yay, I'm washing the dog. Yay, even the animal likes to be clean. God damn it. I hate it. Dress like late stage capitalism is killing you. Based Ryan Cultastic. Love to see it. Yes, this is a new cartoon. It's this little song that they just released that I made a horrible mistake in watching, and then I had to pass on my trauma to everybody else. That's what YouTube is. I really hate that video. And I gotta say, credit where credit is due. They don't always release bangers. That is a banger. It is a bop. That has been stuck in my head since yesterday when I watched it, and I do hate it so much. Do they have a verse about beards being dirty? Is a good question. Like, Jehovah shaves them beard hairs. They should have a verse about like, and also tight pants are gay. You gotta wear a suit and leave when you toot. I don't know. I mean, Jehovah doesn't like it when you fart in the middle of the meeting. You got to go to the bathroom for that. Well, everybody, we covered everything I wanted to cover, and we could keep going, or I could go pee and work on the video I'm actually supposed to be working on. So I'll do the thing. We'll see. Everybody can filter out for the closing announcements of the class. But we had like upwards of 240 people watching at some point, which is very nice. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do like and comment. The live chat is very, very weird. I feel like it doesn't count towards like the actual comment count. So if you want to do that, it helps people see the video. I have a Patreon. I historically haven't really uploaded anything exclusive to the Patreon outside of like one Q&A. But I finally figured out a Patreon thing I can do that won't make me feel like I'm having main channel subscribers like miss out on anything important, which is mean comments. I've been getting so many more witness comments lately over the last few weeks from that Bible video I did onward. I've gotten a lot of JW comments and emails, and so I want to do some videos on those. So look forward to that in the coming week. I'm just going to release short little videos talking about some JW comments like I did in that video from a month or two ago. And then the next main video is going to be probably a rebuttal of a morning worship talk. I realized it's been a long time. I just sat down, I watched a video, And then I recorded myself going, that was stupid. I didn't like that very much. Those are fun. Rebuttals are fun sometimes. So I think I'm going to do that. But thank you, everybody, for watching. And just enjoy your weekend. I don't have a good sign off. I never have. I think if you have a good idea for a sign off, email me at exjwfaq.com. No, that is not my email. I just said something that's not an email. exjwfaq@gmail.com. That's my email. Email me suggestions for what my sign off should be. So thanks for watching and keep it chill.
Would you also be okay if there were people who had any questions, they could call in with a question?
We prefer not to. I just want to stick to the
You want
kind
to
of stick to the
okay.
script, if that's okay.
All right.